Good afternoon, members. I'm Deepak Vadhavan, former CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors, India. Today's webinar is on internal audit of strategic risk, and the speaker is Mr. T. Sankar. Allow me to lay the background of the general situation as it exists in this area. Committee meeting, and the members are excited to know what the internal auditor's point of view on risk is on this strategy, or those that will impact its future. Well, some progressive committees would definitely welcome it. In fact, strategy is the holy grail of management. And in a way, you are asking to audit the guiding document of how the management places its bets. So there is workaround usually offered, which is to review how good has been the execution of the strategy and whether the execution risks have been addressed. That's what the internal auditors usually end up doing. But that usually doesn't help, not always at least. Take a case of a leading capital goods manufacturer. In 2011, its share price was upwards of rupees 200, and in 2018 end, it was less than rupees 60. In 8 years, they lost 66% of shareholder value, and it's a top company. Now, I've seen their ERM policy document, and it is very well articulated. It is executed with over 24 risk management committees in various units and divisions. So what went wrong? Obviously, you can point towards strategy, failing in the strategy. So where were the internal auditors, and were they allowed to audit strategy, and how? Now, there's a word in Latin. There's a word in Latin, ebidem, meaning to be in the same place. An important issue for the internal auditors is how they get into the same place as the management and the board that adds the most value and helps the organization navigate risky waters. Finding that place means internal auditors should be clear on the approach, that is, determine where, when, and how to be involved, which is more of an art. And secondly, the skill sets to add value in auditing strategic risks, which could be said to be more of a science. So there is an art and a science to auditing strategic risks. Throwing light on some of the aspects of the topic today is Mr. T. Sankar, Partner, Internal Audit, Governance and Risk, Messrs. K.S. IIA and Company. K.S. IIA and Company was established by Mr. Kalyan Subramani Iyer in Calicut in 1897, and then he moved it to Mumbai in 1900. They are the oldest Indian accounting firm of the country. It's a privilege to have a speaker from that firm. Mr. Sankar himself is a very well-known chartered accountant and needs no introduction. But for the records, he's a graduate in science from Calcutta University and a fellow member of ICAI and a member of IIA Mumbai chapter. His career of 35 years has been involved in setting up robust audit practices, control systems, and procedures while working in several renowned companies. He was the chief internal auditor in Premier Automobiles, Fiat, and Blue Star for nearly 2 decades is his experience as a chief internal auditor. Mr. Sankar's areas of specialization are manufacturing audit, project audit, product audit, service audit, compliance audit, accounts and finance audit, enterprise risk management, internal financial controls, due diligence and investigation audits. Over to Mr. Sankar. We look forward to your talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak, for introducing me excellently. Good evening, IIA members. At the outset, I thank Manoj Agarwal, Nikhil Kochar, Mr. Manas, and Chanchal for giving me an opportunity to talk on internal audit of strategic risk. Now, in today COVID-19 lockdown strategic risk, because of the lockdown, a lot of things have changed. The biggest strategy risk the central government and the state government have taken See, the risk was whether to continue for economy's sake, continue business, or have a lockdown and save human life. But our central and state government took the view that saving human being is far more important than economy. Today, in 4 months lockdown, no doubt now lockdown has lifted to an extent. There is nearly 12 lakhs people affected, out of which 8 lakhs have been recovered, 4 lakhs in the process of recovery, and nearly 30,000 deaths has taken place. Had the government not done lockdown, to tell the truth, it's my personal assumption, if there's no lockdown and each one of us had gone to office or factory, the case would have been 10 times. 1.2 crores people would have impacted and nearly 3 lakhs deaths would have taken place. But it is because of the government strategy that human life is most important. They took their view and they were able to mitigate. Now coming to the normal, in this lockdown period, each one adopted a different strategy. For instance, online teaching in schools, approach to teaching is changed. Learning process has changed. Asynchronous teaching taking place. Today, till nobody has been teaching online teaching in schools, but this lockdown gave an opportunity for them to teach online teaching in school, especially for teaching school children. For senior KG and junior KG is not a joke. It requires enormous effort, but our teachers, they did a strategy, they did teaching in such a way that children are able to learn online. I myself have seen the video, excellent video. University and school board exams. Now, in the lockdown period, for the safety reason, some other university have cancelled the exam, some other board have cancelled the exam, but some other university and board, based on the previous mark, has made examination pass. So each university and board, they did their own strategy. Business activities. We talk of business activities, no doubt business activities come down. The operation, because of the production, has come down. But other than that, most of the activities are continuing as if there's no lockdown, because online meetings are taking place, virtual meetings are taking place. For the Q4, accounts have been finalized, audited, and signed, and Q1, some of the accounts are in process. The work has not stopped. Even the marketing department is doing the marketing, HR department is doing the HR, IT companies are doing as if nothing has impacted. Board meeting and AGMs. Today, Q4, all board meetings and audit committee meeting were all completed. I myself had the privilege of attending 4 audit committee meetings in Q4, and in Q1, 2 audit committee meetings till date I've attended. All this meeting, how it's taking place? It is either Google, Geo, or Zoom, or any other webinar, whichever way. The board meetings are taking place. And AGM, virtual meeting, AGM is taking virtual meeting. Reliance Industry on 15 July, can you imagine? On 15 July, they had Geo Meet app. 3 lakh shareholders attended the meeting. And from 41 nations, including the CEO, Mr. Mark of Facebook, and Google CEO, Sundar Pichai, he also attended. It was a great success. And this was the best strategy to launch GeoMeet application. Social entertainment. Today, social entertainment, been on account of lockdown, we are all cut off with the family members, friends, colleagues, everybody. Still, we are having social entertainment. Still, we are able to talk to them through either through Zoom, Google. We are celebrating birthday parties or tombola all activities are not stopped. Even we are able to watch live musical show. So in short, what I will say, the lockdown, although it was there, each one adopted the strategy and were able to enjoy it. Now, coming to risk, what is a risk? Risk is a part of everyday life, and the same is true for risk in organization. Pretty much every aspect of business contains risk, or any business, it contains risk. If someone comes and tells you, in my business, there's no risk, he is just bluffing. All business contains risk. In some business, the risk may be high. In some business, the risk may be low. Like in my audit firm, there is a risk. Every business contains risk. Every decision you make hold risk. Some decision of yours may be advantage for your business. Some decision go against your business. The key is knowing how to do business in a way that protects you and allows you to manage business risk successfully. What is the definition of risk? Risk is any event or a non-event, the occurrence or a non-occurrence of which can adversely affect the objectives or existence of the company. This threat may be internal or external to the company, may or may not be directly influenced by the company, and may arise out of routine or non-routine action of the company. I am reading the definition once again. Please listen carefully. Risk is any event or a non-event, the occurrence or a non-occurrence of which can adversely affect the objectives or existence of the company. These threats may be internal or external to the company, may or may not be directly influenced by the company, and may arise out of routine or non-routine action of the company. What is the perspective of risk? Companies need to take risk to create value. Only when you take risk, you can create value and manage risk to protect value. Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Again, I'm repeating Warren Buffett's quote. Risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Robert N. Charetta says, risk management is not about future decision, but about the future of decision that we must take now. I would like to give two examples to lighten the session because it's a heavy session. Whenever I address any participant, either in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or the Cost Accountants of India, or to my firm or the Rotary or Lions Club, I always ask the participant, what do you perceive as risk? Everyone says job risk, manufacturing risk, marketing risk, production risk. Students face examination risk. I tell all of them, all this risk can be easily mitigated. Knowingly or unknowingly, we have taken risk, most of us have taken risk, and some of us will be taking risk, and that is marriage risk. Because in India, it is not like America. Today you get married, tomorrow you get divorced. Indian culture is that once you get married, normally the marriage is lifelong. Very few cases of divorce takes place. For instance, in arranged marriage, what happened? The boy do not know the girl do not know the boy. But family background is checked. Still they get married and they live happily. Similarly, in a love marriage, the boy and the girl go together for 1 year, 2 years, and the boy sees the girl's good quality, the girl sees the boy's good quality. But after marriage, the boy sees only the girl's bad quality and the girl sees boy's only bad quality. Still, love marriage also is very successful in India. There are no doubt nowadays few divorce cases happening, but overall, India marriage is perfectly okay. And if we can take that risk, what is that? Project risk, production risk, even strategy risk. So all this risk or nothing. I'd like to give one more example on risk. When I was heading as a chief internal auditor of Blue Star Limited, one of the deputy managers, Ashwin, he was always traveling by train. So once I called him and asked him, Ashwin, as per Blue Star policy, you are eligible to go by air. Why you are traveling by train? He said, no, sir, I enjoy traveling by train. I told him, Ashwin, if you go by air, like for a place like Calcutta, you want to do audit. Train, you spend 2 days and you get tired. Add 2.5 hours, you reach. Why do you want to go by train? Then he told the truth, sir, I'm very scared of going by air because accident may take place. I told him, I gave strategic data, both in road and railway accident are taken more than the air accident. Still, he was not convinced. I told him, Ashwin, next week we are going for an audit to Chennai. You are coming with me by plane. Reluctantly, he came with me. On that day, unfortunately, and the plane was shaking. He got scared. He told me, sir, I told you plane is very risky. You didn't agree. I told Ashwin, don't worry. You say you're chanting every day Hanuman Chalisa. Chant today also Hanuman Chalisa, no? Nothing happened. So he started chanting Hanuman Chalisa, and the turbulence after 2-3 minutes, it stopped. And when he completed chanting Hanuman Chalisa, he told me, sir, you're right. Now it's okay. Then, while coming, he didn't get so scared by coming by plane. Why I want to say is, sometimes we ourselves perceive it's a risk when it is not at all a risk. Now, 7 key business risks. Physical risk, strategic risk, compliance regulatory risk, operational human risk, technology cyber security risk, financial risk, and reputational risk. What is physical risk? And before that, all this risk, somehow or other, if it goes in a great extent, it becomes a strategic risk. What is physical risk? Physical risk is nothing like flooding coming inside the factory and destroying your factory premises, raw material, everything, or fire taking place, or vandalism, or theft taking place. These are some of the physical risks. What is strategic risk? Whether what decision you made, is it good for the business? Whether your decision is right, or what decision as a CEO or something you have made, it can backfire on the company. And whether even if you made a very excellent decision, whether execution done properly or not, these are some of the strategic risk. Compliance regulatory risk. A simple example of compliance regulatory risk is 2 years before in Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu, Sterlite copper plant, there was a leak of sulfur dioxide. A lot of people got injuries. I do not know, 1 or 2 people also died, I heard. The state government closed its Sterlite factory. Crores of rupees lost for Sterlite company. Had they taken some mitigation process in earlier itself, this sulfur dioxide leak would have never happened. Operational human risk. We may do artificial intelligence, may help robo, but the most biggest risk is human risk. If we do not have proper manpower, proper employees, a proper CEO, it can mar the company. For instance, you choose a CEO, and that CEO, he gives a very wrong decision, and it takes a wrong decision. The companies may lose crores of rupees. That is why human being choosing is very important in organization. Technology and cyber security risk. Although technology has helped quite a lot, because of technology, today I'm able to talk to in front of you, but it also has its risk, because through cyber security, you can do hacking of confidential data of your company's data can be hacked. Production data, sales data, market data, employee data. Financial risk. I'll just explain simple financial risk. What is the financial risk? Supposing your company depends 70% revenue from one customer, and normally he pays within 30 days the payment. to some reason he has not paid you for 3 months, then entire financial problem has, including paying to your employee salary, you will have a tough time. Some of the financial mess which has taken place in India today, Satyam or IIA, they're all misappropriation or account of financial. This all financial risk. Reputational risk. If the company reputation is good, people like to do business, employee like to join the company, suppliers like to supply material. But if the reputation of the company is bad, people do not like to work in that company. Employees are discouraged and they don't want to join that company. Suppliers are afraid to deliver material. Today, when you talk of Tata's, they say Tata's reputation is good, Tata ethical value is good. When you say Infosys, they say Narayan Murthy, Nandan Nilankani, the reputation is good. But if the company, suppose there may be two companies, one company, sale and everything may be same. But if you see share market, if you go to share market and see, they understand very well. One company share may be very high, the other company share may be low. In spite of having the same turnover, more or less, same profit, same industry. The reason is reputation. I will give you a few years before, an Indian company, which had a branch at USA, one of the very senior executive and a brilliant senior executive was involved in a sexual harassment case. The case was filed against them sexual harassment. To settle his case, the Indian company has to shell out crores of rupees. And the name of the company came very bad. Although in Dow Jones and Indian market, the price fell down very bad. Now it has improved. But what I want to say is, you may have a brilliant person, but if his character is not good, you can suffer. That is why reputation risk is as important like any other risk. What is strategic risk? Strategic risk does not focus on challenges that may cause a particular strategy to fail, but on any major risk that could affect a long-term positioning and performance. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for risk management function. How risk is governed varies across industries and organizations. This means there's not one size bucket. This risk is for this sector, and this risk is for another sector, or this risk is for this department. There's no one size risk solution. There is solution. There is no solution. Same industry, two same industry can have two different risks. Within the organization also, one department may have one risk and another department have another risk. There are 5 interrelated principles that underline effective risk management within organization, both at good times and bad. What are they? Indicator discipline of risk management, constructive board engagement. Let me tell you, which all companies has been very successful in strategic risk. They're all board engagement was very active. Board and the top management engagement has to be there. Where companies delegate the strategic risk to a vice president or a general manager, there the strategic risk has failed. Effective risk positioning. The positioning of risk, you should know where you are positioned. Like today, in a customer market, you should know what the customer wants. For example, you are in a motorcycle industry. Some people prefer the looks of motorcycle. Some people prefer fuel. Some people some other thing. But you should know that customers taste and manufacture according to that. Similarly, prices. Price should not be exorbitant. At the same time, quality should not be compromised. And what is the price of computers? Also, you should know. Users application. Users should be in position to use throughout the year. For instance, when Nescafe was launched, what happened? Nescafe, in the winter, they used to say, have a hot cup of coffee. They used to advertise. Then for summer, what to do? Why should this advertisement not hold good? Then they came out for cold coffee for summer. Product process in effective position is very important. Depending on the customer need, supposing somebody uses everyday shampoo, say a shampoo company, you had to use a mild shampoo business. Somebody have a dandruff, you had to do a dandruff shampoo. Then culture of the company and ethics. Then like Blue Star had a go saying customer is the king. So that was it. If anybody assigned with the Blue Star, they'll say customers, their main thrust was customer is the king. Like city slogan, if you know the city slogan, you say city never sleeps. In Air India, the culture is Maharaja is welcoming you. And finally, competitive strategy. What the competitor in a position, you should know what he is planning, what strategy is adopting, should know. Then strong risk culture. To tell honestly, multinational companies, they have a very strong risk culture and they really imbibe in their organization strategy itself this risk culture, especially strategy risk. Whereas most of Indian companies do not have a strong risk culture. Appropriate incentive. People who are managing strategic risk should be appropriately given incentives, salaries, everything. Everyone knows that a successful business needs a comprehensive, well thought of business plan. But it's also a fact of life that things change and your best laid down plan can sometimes come to look very outdated. Why? Supposing you have an excellent plan and you're doing exceptionally very well, don't feel happy. That next year it can become outdated. Why? Because the next slide I'm showing, you see, it can be because of technological changes that have taken place, or a powerful new competitors enter the market, or there is a customer shift in customer demand, or spike in cost of raw material, or any number of other large scale changes. Because of this, what you preserved 1 year before as excellent product or excellent thing become outdated in the next year. History is littered with example of company that faced strategic risk. Some managed adopt successfully, others did not. There are 5 types of strategic risk. Competitive risk. See, even you may be a giant company, still you should not be in a complacent. Take the case of Hindustan Unilever. Sir, they thought Surf is a sole product, but Nirma gave a run for money. And after Nirma coming, Surf has to change the strategy. They have to relook the product. Even the advertising strategy, they have to do it. Similarly, it's a case. Colgate thought they are ruling the Indian market in toothpaste. When Baba Ramdev Dantakanti came, Colgate understood that market share started shrinking. People who are using Colgate started shifting to Dantakanti. Then Colgate has to introduce only for India to counter Dantakanti certain page. Even the advertisement strategy has to change. In competitive risk, one more risk always remember. Supposing you depend on 1 or 2 suppliers, and tomorrow that supplier is taken over by competitor, then you will be in a soup. So always be in constant monitoring. Technology change. As all of you are aware, technology is constantly changing. What is today may become outdated, and you have to move with the technology. Regulatory risk. This is one of the most important things. Today you manufacture a product, and tomorrow, because of change of regulatory, your product become outdated, and to make a new product, it will cost a bomb for you. So whenever you make a product, you should be in line with the regulatory, and if there is a change in the regulatory, you should be in a position to adopt by changing your product slightly and market it. Take the case of automobile industry. The emission norms goes on changing. So most of the automobile companies nowadays, what they do, they are prepared for it. If there's a change in emission, with slight twisting, tweaking, they change the emission and they're able to market the car. Political risk. This is risk normally is not so easy to predict, but there is a risk. Today, because of China aggression and few soldiers died because of China, on account of China, India wants to boycott China product, and Indian people says that we should not have any Chinese product. But is it not so easy for Indian companies completely stop supply from China? Because most of the Indian companies have gone to China because the cost is low, because they didn't have in-house, or they didn't have in India any local manufacturing, or they didn't develop in any other country. So this is the biggest risk. Tomorrow, if a business stops in China, all the industry will come to a doldrum. Economic risk. The best example of economic risk is in COVID-19. In the COVID-19, we're all employed. The salaries have come down to 50%, 40%, or 60%. The income has come down. Some business also, which they were having huge business income, it has come to 50%, 40%. And what they do now, since they have to survive, essential items like food and consumer which are required, they only purchase. But luxury item, they do not purchase. Like today, nobody buys a car, or nobody goes in for branded shirts. Example I'm giving. So at that time, these companies should have a strategic risk. If there's economic risk, how do we work? Today, for instance, airlines and hotel industries are in doldrum because of COVID-19. So today, COVID-19 is an exception case, but in a business cycle, just like boom, recession also bound to happen. So you should always be prepared for economic risk also. Now, this is an important point I want to emphasize, especially for internal auditors. A lot of internal auditors feel strategic risk and operation risk are more or less same. No. What is strategic risk? It comes both from internal and external process. But operation risk stems solely from internal process within a business. We can say strategic risk is about what you do, but operation risk is how you do it. There's a vast difference. Strategic risk says what you do, and operation risk says how you do it. And impact of strategic risk is far greater in comparison to operation risk. In operation risk, something goes wrong. You may lose 5 crores, 3 crores, 5 crores. But in strategic risk, if it grows, something goes wrong, you may lose heavily. And loss may be crores or rupees, even 100 crores also. Or even the business can be wiped out. Strategic risk management is a process of recognizing risk, identifying the causes and effects, and taking the relevant action to mitigate them. As already discussed, risk can come from inside and outside the organization, such as manufacturing failures, economic changes, shift in consumer taste. A strategic risk can disrupt a business ability to accomplish its goal and achieve value for itself and stakeholders. Effective and efficient management puts the power in leaders' hands to avoid potential obstacles to success and maximize the performance. How do you identify strategic risk? The first and foremost quality, the person who prepares the strategic risk, who does the strategic risk, and the internal auditor who does the strategic risk should have in-depth understanding of organization, should have thorough knowledge of the organization. Unless you have the thorough knowledge of the organization, you can never do a strategic risk audit. Your target audit, which is audit, your audience are age of group of 20 or 30 or 40 or middle income group or high income group or low income group. Then your market sector, which market sector you are doing, who are all your competitors, and what is the competitor strategy and the environment in which your business operate. These are the things you should know in a strategic risk. Now, a clear awareness of an organization core strategic goal from the conception to proposed execution. All organizations will have some core strategic goals. For instance, when I was head of Blue Star Limited, Blue Star had number of products: water cooler, deep freezer, electronics item, room air condition, split AC. But the core business was central air condition. 30% of the market share and 60% of the company's revenue at that time was coming from central air condition. So the strategy was all on central air condition. Now, I'll give you example of strategic failure story and successful story. This is very important when you do a strategic risk. Why failures and success you should know. 88% of the Fortune 500 companies of 1955 have become bankrupt now, or merged with another company, or out of 500. Why this has happened? Because they downfall has been mainly because of non-implementation of strategic risk model, or strategic risk model was not implemented in true sense. Live example of Kodak, which was formed in 1989. In 2012, which was a pioneer in a photography space. Actually, one of the senior executives even did digital camera, but they didn't want to go in for digital camera because they thought their existing business will get spoiled. They didn't go in, and because of that, by 2012 they became bankrupt. Whereas Canon, they went in digital camera and they have been successful. Another example, Blockbuster, which has 6 billion revenue when you speak, at one store left in the world. Now, it was formed in 1985 and 2010 it became bankrupt. You won't believe, 2004 it had 85,000 people were there and nearly 10,000 stores were there. Netflix at that time in 2000 wanted to sell the company for 50 million to Blockbuster. Blockbuster did not buy, and Netflix became the competitor. And Netflix today revenue is 9 billion because Blockbuster were in video and everything, but they didn't go in a large scale in a digitization. MySpace was one of the most dominant social network, and until Facebook came along. Before now, have you ever, now nobody knows about MySpace. We can argue the company because failed because of innovation, innovative, but it is not the fact. The fact is they failed to manage the strategic risk. An example, Indian company, which I myself have worked in that Indian company, Premier Automobile. Strategic Premier at one time, the land from Kamani till near Vidyavira station, they have huge land. The plant was so big. And what they and Hindustan Motors, the ambassador car, why they failed? Because they thought control market demand was more than the supply. They thought nothing to worry, but they never anticipated liberalization will come. When Narasimha government did the liberalization, and these people were never modified the product, and tie-up which they had, they were all outdated model. And by 98, the company was wiped out. They were pioneer company in India and the biggest company, one of the biggest company in Maharashtra. Now, let me come to success stories. ITC Limited, which was called initially Imperial Tobacco Limited, then Indian Tobacco Limited, now it's called ITC Limited. It's a classic example of excellent strategic management. As on 31st March 2019, it had a turnover of 52,035 crores and US 7.3 billion, and income, net income of 12,824 crores and US of 1.8 billion. It survived because of excellent strategic risk. 40 years before, the entire business was 100% in tobacco or cigarette. But every year, government started taxing. That time it's called excise duty, now it's called GST, taxing. and every year excise duty, huge excise duty was taxed. So ITC thought, if they are survey in India, they have to diverse the product. They started diversing the product. Today, ITC is not only in the cigarette, they're also in FMCG, hotels, paper, packaging, IT, and other sectors also. The total revenue, once upon a time, it was 100% of total revenue of tobacco. Now it's 46% only. FMCG account 25% and balance from other sectors. Although they have 77% of the total revenue from the tobacco. Had they not diversed, they would have become like another blockbuster. If you attend any medical conference, doctor's conference, for success strategic story, they always mention 3M company. 3M is an American multinational company which has a presence in the field of industry, worker safety, consumer product. They have nearly 60,000 products. And as on 31st March 2018, its turnover was $32.77 billion and net income of $5.33 billion and having 94,000 employees. What is the strategy they did? They used to add every year new product, even if it may be a small product, but they add one new product every year. It's compulsory they have to add. And it has a policy that a single product should not exceed a certain percentage of share of the total business. So the risk is spread over a large product base. Now, moving ahead, the focus of internal auditor should to provide assurance of the effective of risk management and not just on the effective of controls. See the distinction now. As an internal auditor, we simply say internal controls are inadequate or adequate, or even we say it is high risk deficiency. But if you are a strategic risk internal auditor, we should communicate the assessment whether management is appropriately addressing the more significant risk to achievement. That in short, we should not say controls are adequate or inadequate. We should give an assurance that the risk management is addressing properly, significant risk management addressed properly, and it's achieving its objective. Process of management of risk must be integrated into organization system of management to be effective. Process for management of risk must be integrated into an organization system of management to be effective. Internal auditor should no longer assess risk on behalf of the organization. They should not assess the risk. Repeat, I'm saying they should not assess the risk on behalf of the organization. The role is to assist the decision maker in arriving the most appropriate treatment of risk, and then the monitoring and reviewing of risk and controls. Internal auditor will obtain at the beginning of the year the plans, what the decision maker strategy when they're doing, they'll obtain the plan, they will audit accordingly. Management should have effective process for identifying, assessing, and evaluating what might happen as an integral part of decision making. Once an internal auditor has assessed those processes as reasonably effective, it should use them as input to its continuously update audit planning activity. Now, to have effective strategic risk management, internal auditor should see ISO and CA certificate is preferably done from a European certified or notified bodies, not affiliated companies. Here I would like to say, you should get ISO certificate, not from the affiliated body. I've seen the affiliated bodies in India giving ISO certificate. Very easy to get a certificate, but the European Union certificate is not so easy. They are really a professional body who not only for products and system, but do risk analysis such as number of supplies of key raw materials and reduce dependency on one. These ISO bodies have stringent quality check. No, it's not so easy to get ISO from this European body. Even if you want to export to them, you have to get a certificate from them, and they don't get certificates so easy. So what I'm saying, if you want to get risk management certified, get from them, not from the affiliated companies in India, some ISO, because very easy to get them. I've seen myself. Effective risk management requires clear expression of intent and mandate by the board and by top management. Effective risk management requires clear expression of intent and mandate by the board and the top management. Internal audit need to provide its assessment to the board and top management with the practice meet the needs of the organization, enabling informed intelligent decision. It means the internal audit should provide to assessment of board and management whether the strategic risk is being implemented properly, and they should give an assurance also. Internal audit should provide assurance, advice, and insight to improve decision making. It should remember not to penalize this working diligently to upgrade management process, but instead encourage and be evangelist for world-class practice. Some companies, top management, including the board level, expect internal audit function to carry out audit process strategy risk management. And some companies, including the board level, expects internal function to carry out audit of both content of strategy risk and also audit of process strategy risk. Here, the difference is the first one says it's only the process, whereas in the second one, some board level member expects to carry not only the process, also the content. Here, I would like to give an example. One of my friends, very close friend in Delhi, was head of audit in a large company. He did a strategic risk, helping the management. So when I'm explaining, I will be explaining as if I've done the work in my company to keep confidentiality, and the figure which I give is only imaginary figure. So in the company, the MD of my company called me and told, Shankar, we are planning to buy a skilled labor company of X industry, and if you buy this company, our company business also will grow, and we intend on buying this company for 100 crores. And I want you and your team to do an independent study. I told MD and chairman, sir, you have already decided to buy this company, and why do you want our people and myself to do the work? And it will involve cost also. I'll be using external agencies' help. MD and chairman told, Shankar, you don't worry. You do what I say, and you can't argue with the chairman, MD. I told, okay, sir. I did the study. I made a complete in-depth study about that sector which we plan to buy, what all they do. After having thorough knowledge, we did complete due diligence, and after doing the due diligence, we made a study, and we made a report. The report was made beautifully with the help of young chartered accountants, and it was forwarded to by mail to chairman, MD, and hard copy was also sent to him. Here I would like to say, you may have excellent content, but if the report is not done properly, then the report, what content will have less value. It is like if you go to a 5-star hotel, you feel like having dessert, you feel like having the salads because the dressing is superb. But if you go to ordinary hotel, you don't feel like having a salad. The dressing, similarly, you may have excellent content, but the report should be prepared in such a way the MD and chairman should feel like reading it. So on the next day, I went and met the MD and chairman. The first question the chairman MD asked me, Shankar, do you understand business? I told, why, sir? I understand business very well. You are saying this company needs to be purchased at 70 crores, whereas we want to purchase it 100 crores. Sir, you see in a report, a clearly written, debtors are overstated to so much of amount, crores of rupees. Creditors are understated to so much of rupees. Fixed assets are overvalued to so much of rupees. Liabilities are understated to so much of rupees. 3 key executives have left the organization, and key three keys executive of the organization, and 3 key strategy. 3 key people are planning to leave. So in spite of that, we want to buy that company, and working everything, it comes to 70, or maximum we can buy 72 crores, not more than that. The MBA chairman told, okay, Shankar, thank you very much. After a month, I came to know we have purchased that company for 80 crores. So when I got an opportunity of meeting MBA chairman, I asked him, sir, you told me that company you want to buy at 100 crores, but now you have purchased 80 crores. He told me, Shankar, I told you I want to buy 100 crores, but definitely we and the marketing head will do negotiation. And we thought of doing a 10 to 12% discount, and we thought of buying at 88 crores. But your report gave me a value addition for us. We showed them your report, and we told this company is worth only for 70 to 72 crores, but they didn't agree initially. Finally, they accepted some of the facts which you are given, and they told they will take for 80 crores. Maximum they can go for 80 crores, and we also felt 80 crores is a good bargain. So it was a win-win situation for both of us, and we went and purchased at 80 crores. What we want to say is, although MD also appreciated that they were able to negotiate for 8 crores further because of a study. No doubt the study was not done by me, by my friend. I just gave here to keep confidentiality. Qualities required to conduct risk audit. What are the qualities required? Effect include business. 3 important qualities. One is business acumen. That's the most important quality to conduct a strategic risk audit. Knowledge of the company and persuasion empathy. When you do a strategic audit, you should wear the hat of a businessman or operation head, not as an internal auditor. Then you will understand what are the advantage and what are the disadvantage in this operation. Then you can do a strategic risk audit. Knowledge of the company. Yes, you should have thorough knowledge of the company to do an audit. Unless you do not have knowledge, you can't do an audit. And internal auditor should be able to walk in the shoes of the people working in the function they audit. When we say shoe in the company, when you discuss, you or your people, when they discuss with operating head, they should feel that we are capable and we know the subject very well. Then they know. Supposing if you're discussing a strategic risk and you say this strategic risk needs little improvement, for that you should be thorough in strategic risk. What risk you are talking, and the operation head should feel that this internal auditor really knows the subject very well. The 5 qualities required. One is analytical and critical thinking, communication skill, data mining and analytic, general knowledge IT, and business acumen. Time and again I'm pressing, business acumen is one of the most important skill for doing strategic audit. When I say communication skill, I'm not talking of communication skill of oral and written, but we should have a communication skill of talking to the top management boldly, effectively, so that you convince your views. I've seen number of internal audit head. They are good talking to below the line, but when it comes to the top people, and if the top people gives some suggestion and they say no, this is not possible, the audit head says yes sir, and comes out. So our communication skill also to the top people should be bold, just like I told the example, my friend did it. But 72 crores, he told to the MDA chairman that maximum price we can pay only 72 crores. He was bold enough to talk to him. Risk assessment. Identify all the risk related to your information. Identify the risk owners. Assess the impact and likelihood of risk. Determine that when you say assess the impact and likelihood of risk means, supposing you feel this is a high risk, but you feel the impact will be 1, it will not at all appear. It's called 5-1. But if you feel this impact likelihood of happening is also 5, very high risk. So we should do a metric. It is 5-5 or 5-4 or 5-3 or 5, like that. Determine the level of risk. What is the level of risk? Whether it is a high risk or only high risk or medium risk or low medium risk or low risk, should determine the level of risk and decide whether risk needs to be treated or not. Then you should take a decision whether the risk needs to be treated or it is very low risk, nothing to worry. Risk assessment versus internal auditor. Here, when you do a risk assessment, you should wear a hat of risk assessment auditor, but not as internal auditor. What's the difference? It's only on the mindset. Risk assessment is about the event that will happen in future, whereas internal audit is dealing with how things were done in the past. See, today, very easy. Past to do an audit of past is very easy, but to do future, what will happen in future, nobody knows it. And risk assessment is about the event that could happen in the future. The second major difference is internal audit focus on compliances with various rules and requirements, while risk assessment is nothing but analysis that provides a basis for building up certain rules. And the third difference is risk assessment is done before you start applying the security controls. Please note, risk assessment done before starting applying the security controls, while internal audit is performed once these are already implemented. Now, when you do a risk management plan, these things are very important. Identify potential risk, which all your potential risk for your business. Some risk may be for a business wise, some may be only for certain sector, demographics. Then conduct a risk analysis. Once you identify a risk, you have to analyze the potential impact and likelihood. Just now I told you, the risk is very high risk 5, but impact is 1, 5-1 or 5-2, like that. Identify warning and sign and agree key risk indicators. Key part of preventing risk from occurring is being able to spot when the risk happens. There should be trigger and warning each risk so that clearly you know the risk is going to happen, and document and embed the relevant process for mitigation process. Then identify preventive measures. Once the risk occurs, then what are the preventive measures we are taking, like risk analysis and key risk indicator. Assign responsibility. See, when a risk is there, you should assign responsibility, and the person who is assigning responsibility should have a skill, experience, and knowledge. You can't assign to a person who do not have that skill or experience or knowledge. So assign to a proper person the risk and that risk. Now, before closing, I'm a great fan of Swami Vivekananda, and all my session, I always give one quote of Swami Vivekananda. Now also I'm giving quote: arise, awake, and stop, not until the goal is achieved. Friends, we as internal auditor should arise, awake, and stop for strategic risk is concerned. Because in India, even today, let me be very honest, there are very few directors, board members faith in internal auditors' capabilities of doing strategic risk. They may ask us to do internal audit, but you see very few companies, they ask the internal to do strategic risk. Because why, two things some of the internal auditors are lacking. Or one is business acumen, should wear the hat of the operation, right, and understand the business advantage and disadvantage. Second is in-depth knowledge of the sector. I'm quite sure in few years, all the board will take the help of internal auditor in strategic risk. Once again, no doubt in the webcam there was a problem, so you could not see me, even people. Yes. But anyway, best of my ability, I was able to explain to you. Thank you for all of you for listening patiently. And once again, I thank Deepak, Manoj, Nikhil, Menas, and Chanchal for giving me an opportunity. Over to you.
Sir, we have some questions. So can we take now?
Yeah.
Sir, just so Kashyap is asking, in example of Kodak, risk was technology change or not having read the consumer need?
See, I didn't get again. Just tell the question again. Yeah.
Yeah. In example of Kodak risk, what Kodak risk was technology change or not having read the customer need?
No. See, technology change, you are supposed customer need. You are supposed to in a product change, you should know what is the customer today, what customer what is interested. Tomorrow he may get the loyalty, just like I told Dantakanti and Colgate. So the customer need more important. Technology change is slightly different. Here the customer need for product.
So meanwhile, I'm requesting participants, if you have some query, so you can ask. And I'm just having feedback poll. So kindly answer the feedback. Then we'll over to Deepak sir after. So you can participants, you can minimize your screen to click on the answer. And meanwhile, if you have some question, you can ask. And we have another webinar on 31st by Sankar sir on advanced risk-based auditing. So requesting you, if you have received the email, you can register early so that you can able to join the webinar. So I think I got one question. Yeah. So Mr. Chetan is asking, it would be nice if you can share some practical insights, findings during audit of strategic risk.
See, practical is one practical example of my friend I shared. Okay, strategic risk. To be very honest, today in Indian companies, most of the Indian companies, the board or the top management, today they just ask us whether strategic risk process is in order, whether they are implementing. That's all. They do not take even internal today so seriously. But one example which I told you about the live example, my friend was asked assessment on due diligence.
Thank you, sir. As of now, we have no other questions. So I think someone is asking. So yeah. So Mr. Ravi is asking, sir, how can we implement a strategic risk evaluation in normal risk advisory practice of any company in day to I think day-to-day activity, not DD part.
Again, just read the question. Yeah. Just read the question.
Yeah. How can we implement a strategic risk evaluation in normal risk advisory practice of any company in day 2 activity, not day 2 part. DD part, I think, not clear about the last thing.
But anyway, I'll just explain. See,
Yeah.
When you are doing a strategic risk auditor, the most important thing, slightly you have to wear the hat of a strategic risk, and you should know thoroughly about the business of that company and in-depth knowledge of the company, and you should have operation knowledge. Then only you can do a strategic risk audit. Whereas, as I told you, when some companies are asking even to help the top management the content of the audit, not even after the process strategic risk is formed, even forming the strategic risk, some companies are involving in order to help whether some other risk is there or not. So for that, business knowledge has to be there, and you should have a acumen for business acumen should be there.
Thank you, sir. I think one more question from Kashyap. Will COVID-19 appear as environment risk for next few years?
See, today, to be honest, nobody knows COVID-19 how long it goes, but the risk has been, to an extent, most of the companies have adopted risk, and they started working in a whether virtual meeting or discussion, except so even productions have started. It may not be in full swing. The only risk is certain industry will have a risk, like hotel industry, airline industry, and high luxury item industries. And I don't think this COVID-19 will go, at least this year, definitely will be there. Next year, if the vaccine is found, it will be not there. But there, I'm not an expert to say when it will go.
Thank you, sir. Over to Deepak, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chanchal. Thank you, Mr. Sankar, for the interesting talk, spiced with Indian success and failure stories of strategic risk management. Also bringing out the consulting and assurance role of internal auditors in strategic risk review. Of special interest to me was the skills you mentioned required by the internal auditor. And you mentioned analytical and critical thinking, communication, business acumen, data mining and analytics, general IT knowledge. So gone are the days of having only technical audit skills. And that is a very interesting aspect. Of course, like as internal auditors, we always use subject matter experts, and also we need a broad idea of that area to be able to manage as per the IIA standard of managing subject matter experts. Eventually, the responsibility is on us to give a view, and it ends over there, the accountability. So listening to your talk actually has helped in forming some broad views about strategic risk audits. Participants, I hope you enjoyed it. Mr. Sankar is also doing another online training on advanced risk-based auditing on 31st of July. Those who wish to attend could enroll. There's an email which has already been sent. The course which he's going to do is essentially for senior internal auditors, and it is to develop the knowledge to develop an audit universe and risk-based internal audit plan. He's going to give practical examples based on his experience of 20 years as a chief internal auditor. Also addressing emerging and advanced risk management topics, which is going to cover such as governance risk, strategic risk, fraud risk, information technology risk and auditing, and risk management process. What will be very interesting is the interactive activities in real life scenarios. It's always good to have a very experienced chief internal auditor doing the training, because backed with that is experience, and we look forward to having you with us. A lot of these topics, of course, have been discussed, but the experience with which Mr. Sankar speaks. Thank you once again, Mr. Sankar, on behalf of
Thank you.
IIA India, and good night, participants.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Chanchal. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks, participants. Hope we will meet on 31st. So, thank you, everyone.